Welcome to a new week of Student of the Gun Radio. I am your host, Paul Markle. Congratulations for being here. Congratulations on the good decision that you just made for tuning in. We are in the Glass Case of Emotion Studios, which is located at it's at Student of the Gun University on the sunny Gulf Coast of Biloxi, Mississippi. And the person who's bumping into his microphone over there and eating is Jared. Jared, are you between bites? Can you say hello to the folks at home there?
Yes, I can say hello. We went to the farmer's market this morning. And
did you go to the farmer's market?
Chicken salad, I think that's what that is.
Is it an organic chicken? Did it come from a farm? Or
yeah.
It didn't come from the city?
What do they call that? What's the chicken thingy when...
Hormone-free?
Free-range chicken.
Free-range chickens? I was out in the woods the other day hunting, looking for free-range chickens, and I couldn't find any.
Yeah, I know.
There weren't any out there.
I know.
You know, when we had chickens on our farm when I was growing up, we didn't know that there was a special name for them. We didn't know that they were
just chicken.
We didn't call them free-range chickens. They were just chickens that, walked around and ate food. And then,
well, it's because people didn't.
Then they went into the coop, and then they sat down. And
you didn't have companies like McDonald's that wanted to pump hormones into their chicken to cheapen it up for people.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of hormones, not really. Speaking of animals, Moses went and found the wild boar and the fox YouTube cartoon. Remember I said how horrible it was?
Yeah. Was that in the grad program group?
Yeah, it's in the grad program group. Because I was kind of excited, when I was researching that. I thought, oh, man, if there's like a little video, with the moral of the story. Then I found out that 2-paragraph fable actually had a 4-minute long video. I'm like, how do you spend 4 minutes on 2 paragraphs? Well, apparently some very strange third world production company did that, and leave it to our people to find that, to go and dig and look for it. It's kind of like one of those things where you say, "Don't worry about it," and the first thing they do is like, "No, I gotta find that. I gotta know where that is." So yeah, we hope you enjoyed last Thursday. If you enjoyed Fable Time with Student of the Gun, and you are welcome, by the way. If you didn't, that's the great thing about this whole on-demand radio product that we've got going here. It still dumbfounds me to this day. Or when you listen, if you have a local radio station that you like listening to, whatever it happens to be, 97.9, 107.9, 93.5, the Monkey or whatever it is, or the Gorilla or the River or the whatever. Sunny 95.9. Once whatever has been said or played is over, it's over, and that's it. And you can't go back and listen to it again unless you do things such as the miracle of on-demand radio. And people ask us, they'll say, "Well, how come you guys aren't on the air locally in Biloxi and your area?" Like, why would we do that? Seriously, why would you go and buy airtime? Because they don't give that for free. I know you're like, well, they give it for free, right? You just go and sit down and they let you use the microphones and stuff. Now, why would we do that? Go through all the cost and expenditure to create a product that has a limited shelf life and a limited audience. Right now, I'm talking to people in Switzerland, Australia, New Zealand. We just got somebody...
145 countries.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anywhere where people are speaking English are listening to us right now. And it's funny. Well, you know what it is people get comfortable with things. They get comfortable with whether it's the way they watch their television or the way they listen to their radio or the way they do whatever. They're comfortable with it. And especially as we age, we get more and more comfortable with certain things. And then when new ideas come along, they kind of break our chi. Sadly, in the firearms industry, there are a lot of dinosaurs. A lot of people, and I'm not talking about tradition. There's a difference between tradition and just being stuck in doing things just because. You say, well, why do you do that? Well, that's because what we've always have done. It's like talking in 2015, talking to a marketing person who is telling you that they're going to buy magazine ads. Wow, that's an investment.
Yeah.
That's an awesome investment because that industry right there is on the verge of
newspapers
of just breaking through. Yeah, I'm gonna put an ad in the local paper so that the homeless people can see it.
Did I say you know what newspaper ads do for you? They show the other ad agencies that have real ads, that they put ads like on TV or on the internet, on YouTube and stuff like that. They show those people that you're looking to put ads out. So they start contacting you.
Yeah, if you do a newspaper ad, everybody else contacts you. We don't do newspaper ads. You're like, why not? That's what you do. You go. There's so many people in the firearms industry that have been in it for decades and decades. And when they started doing marketing for gun companies back in '83, they would put something, they would buy a quarterly ad in Guns and Sandwiches magazine. And that was the formula because that was what you did. And they got really super used to doing that. So I don't even know how we got here, but
I don't either.
Radio and stuff and junk and the miracle of on-demand radio.
Miracle of mobile apps.
Yeah, the miracle of mobile apps, the miracle of on-demand radio. The fact that if you speak English, you can take your phone or your iPad or your laptop, or you can go anywhere in the world. And what I guess I should have known it, but I never thought about it, was how many U.S. military service members are listening to us all over the world, on ships, on bases, on FOBs, on whatever, are able to listen to us, to listen to the show each and every day because of that. And if we put all our time and effort into trying to conquer the on-air radio world, it would be a waste of time. That would be like going buying time to broadcast on cable TV.
That's one thing that is a misconception, is a lot of people that listen to the radio, they assume that everybody that's on the radio gets paid by the station to be on the radio.
No.
It's kind of the opposite.
Not even close. Very few people in the industry get paid by the radio station.
See, if you've got somebody that broadcasts, like, say, out of Houston, Texas, and we live in Biloxi, Mississippi, if they play the people that broadcast from Houston in Biloxi, then those people get paid because they're getting paid to syndicate their show.
Mm. Yeah, the only people that are actually getting paid by the radio station are like the DJs and the broadcast engineers that are actually sitting in the booth there, and they don't get paid all that much. Oh, but not to say that you shouldn't do that as a career, kids. Go for it. But I don't even know how we got on this subject, as I said before, but we're still here. And it is still Monday, and it's the beginning of the week. We got a lot in store for you here on Student of the Gun Radio. Because it is Monday, we obviously have our SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week, which is what we do every Monday. If you're brand new, buckle in, listen, open up your ears and close your mouth, take a deep breath, and listen louder. Now, last week we asked you fans, we decided that rather than asking you every week to go to all of our sponsors' social media sites or what have you and thank them, and that was a lot. I realized I was asking a lot of you. So what we did last week is we just said, hey, if you have the time and inclination, opportunity, go and thank Crossbreed. And a lot of you folks went over to the Crossbreed's brand new Gun District page. It's only been up for like a week, and thanked them. Matter of fact, I think the vast majority of posts on Crossbreed's Gun District page are from our fans. I think it's like 90% of the posts are from our fans. So go team. Good job. This week, we're going to ask you to make sure that you thank and recognize our friends Velocity Triggers. Velocity Triggers, the Black Rifle Trigger Company. Their meat and potatoes right now, their bread and butter, is making triggers for AR-15 rifles. But like any other trigger company, chances are really good that they're working on, I say chances, I know that they're working on other stuff to expand their product line. But Velocity Triggers at velocitytriggers.com. If you got a black rifle, they've got a trigger for you. They are designed for precision. I know they have a Facebook page, and I know they have a website. I don't know if they have a gun district page yet or not.
If you
I'm
guys
not hip to that, but
if you don't feel like going to your little search engine and searching for velocity triggers, just go to studentthegunradio.com, click on 246. That's episode 246. And the links to their website and their Facebook page will be in there for you.
all right. Well, let's go ahead and let's dive right into the SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week. And remember, if you want to be the SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week, you call 682-207-7684. Leave a message, a clear and concise message, and you may be the SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week.
Hi guys, this is Isaac from Virginia. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about CLP and maybe comment on the recent controversy surrounding certain brands. Thank you.
Okay, Jared, you want to tell him right now what he needs to do to get his free bottle of 9mm plus P from SWAT Fuel?
Yes,
ahead
Isaac
and
from
do that.
Virginia. I need you to email Alex, ALEX, at studentofthegun.com. Send her your name, your mailing address, your phone number, and include your email typed in the body, please. And she will get that over to SWAT Fuel so you can get your free 9mm plus P.
There you go. Okay, lube and lubrication. Step number one, a firearm is a machine. It is a very simple machine. And how do machines work the best? Well, unless it's Jay's AK, machines work best when they're clean and well lubricated. Your engine in your car, motorcycle, lawnmower, chainsaw, I don't care what it is. If it's an engine, if it's a machine, machines work the best when they're clean and well lubricated. Any place on your firearm where metal is rubbing against metal needs to have lubrication of some sort. Now, given that, that basic setup right there, we as a gun culture have lost our collective minds over gun oil. And this is nothing new. This goes all the way back to your grandpa. Your grandpa was probably fighting with his neighbor about whether or not you should put Hoppy's number 9 or Rem oil. Or when I'm guessing when Hoppy's number 9 came out, I don't know, when my grandpa was in diapers or whatever, however long that's been, that people were arguing then about you shouldn't use that. Well, here's what you don't use on guns: WD-40. If you take nothing else from this lesson, do not use WD-40 on your guns. Okay. But besides that, a good friend of mine, Walt Roush, told me, we were talking about gun oil maybe 15 years ago. It's been a long time. And he said most gun oils, there's not a nickel's difference between them. He said the vast majority of them are just the same thing over, repackaged. They might tweak it a little bit or whatever, but they call it something else. And I've seen people lube their M16s or M4s or AR-15s. I've seen them lube it with, what Jaeger does on his rental guns?
Oil, probably?
No, automotive grease.
Oh, okay.
He's got a plastic, one of those plastic tubs and a paintbrush of the general purpose automotive grease. And I've been in his garage when he was cleaning and lubing up the rental guns, just slopping the grease on them. How
long ago was that? Because
how long ago was that?
Yeah,
6-7 years ago.
Yeah,
a while ago.
I don't think his guns get cleaned by him or in his garage.
He doesn't clean them in his garage anymore. But I've actually lubed an AR-15 bolt with Carmex, the stuff you put on your lips. You remember that, Jared?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Somebody handed me. I was at an event, and I was using a loaner gun because when you go to these shooting events, most of the time they want you to shoot a specific gun. It's like, oh, we want you to try this gun. Okay, cool. Right. Hey, if you hand me a gun and ammo, I'll try it. Throw me in the briar patch. But the gun the bolt was like really bone dry when they gave it to me. And here I am in the field, been given, and so I reached into my pocket, I pulled out Carmex, I disassembled the bolt, put Carmex on the bolt, reassembled it, and guess what? It fixed it. Now, I don't know for how long, and we probably fired what? We were shooting pigs, so probably 20, 30 rounds maybe I fired killing pigs. But the fact of the matter is you need to have something. Now, the big controversy over CLP is people think that those 3 letters, that they are trademarked and that they are indicative of a specific brand. That you're like, oh, you need to put CLP on that. And you're like, well, and you say, what kind? It's kind of like Coke. How people use the word Coke in the generic form, or maybe it's not like that at all. I don't know. But, well, in Alabama, if you ask for a Coke, they want to know what kind. Well, when you ask for CLP, people assume that CLP is the brand name. When I was in the Marine Corps, when you were in the Army or the National Guard or the Navy or whatever, the armorers brought out and they gave you bottles of CLP, and they said, put CLP on that. And what was CLP for, though? It was the all-purpose stuff that you put on your guns. Did they issue you when you were in the Army, the Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy, whatever? Did they give you a variety of solvents and lubes and pastes and what have you? Did they? No. One thing. One form of liquid is what you got. And that was CLP. And CLP stands for Cleaner Lubricant Protectant. So you use it to clean the guns, to lubricate the guns, and to protect them. You're like, well, isn't lubing and protecting the same thing? Well, kind of. The whole protectant thing is you put it on the steel parts so that the steel parts don't rust. Crazy talk. I know. It's insane. CLP, now, break-free is a trademark. And that, ladies and gentlemen, where it came from. It's break-free CLP. There are other companies in the world that sell a product, and they call that product CLP. For instance, Frog Lube. Frog Lube has a CLP. And you're like, oh, they can't use that. No. It's a cleaner lubricant protectant. The difference between Frog Lube and your normal break-free is Frog Lube is not petroleum-based. All right. I'm not going to get really deep into the weeds about that, but what you guys need to understand is that, number one, CLP is a generic term for anything that you use to clean, lubricate, and protect your firearms. Number two, be honest with yourselves. How many times have you put CLP on a gun, stored it in a safe or a closet or whatever, and pulled it out because you don't use it very often, and it had rust on it? You're like, what the hell? Why is that? Or you put it on there, and by the time you went back to your gun after using it, or you used the gun, it's all gone because it got super hot and it basically baked off. It cooked off of the gun. You want to have your guns lubed. Yes, you do. What you lube it with is up to you. I really don't care. When we were first introduced to Frog Lube, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm jaded. I've been jaded, and I'm also cynical at the same time. People have been trying to hand me firearms lubricant forever. Every time we go to a SHOT Show, do we not get inundated by some new lubricant product?
We get tons of stuff.
Every time we go to a SHOT Show, there is a guy there or a person who has the newest, coolest gun product, or gun grease, gun oil, gun whatever product, and they want us to try that. And I've been using, whatever, lots of stuff. The fact of the matter is, like I said, if it's petroleum-based, the majority of the petroleum-based stuff, there isn't really 10 cents worth of difference in it. It's just what you feel like putting on your guns. The difference between Frog Lube, and this isn't meant to be a Frog Lube commercial, but you need to understand that Frog Lube is not petroleum-based. So it's actually a food-grade product. Now, it's not something you're going to want to, like, spoonful and eat, but according to the FDA, it is a food-grade product when it comes to hazmat. So whereas if you had a product that was a hardcore solvent or what have you, those have certain hazardous material storage handling. Because Frog Lube is the green Frog Lube CLP, it's food grade. They don't have the hazardous material requirements. I wouldn't eat it myself, but if you get some on your fingers and it gets in your mouth, it's not going to kill you. Now, you don't want to put carbon and stuff like that in your mouth, so wash your hands, kids. that's it. I'm not going to get into other products. I'm not going to jump into the debate. And I'm aware of the controversy, supposedly. And what I see in that controversy is a whole lot of the Bob Ford syndrome. And if you don't know what the Bob Ford syndrome is, you need to read the article that I wrote about Bob Ford syndrome. You're like, but you didn't write that article yet, Paul. Okay, I wrote it in my head.
That's funny. You need to read that article that I wrote, but not really.
Okay.
But seriously.
I wrote it in my head. The Bob Ford syndrome. I guess I need to write that article now.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it. And thank you for being the SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week. And remember to write to Alex at Student of the Gun and get your free stuff. All right, moving on. Let's thank Century Arms. Century Arms, who is pimped by Jacob Herman, who is, as we speak these words, is in Africa slaying wild game.
What a hard job he has.
Shame on him. Duracoat, just because ugly guns are wrong. Because it's just wrong to have an ugly gun. Or how about there's no excuse? I don't know. I'm coming up with Duracoat slogans. Not on their behest, just I am.
Yeah.
You can get Duracoat products, Frog Lube products at Brownells, brownells.com. Go to brownells.com. Check out their new products section. And, Century Arms. Also, Dina sent me a little twerk.
It wasn't a twerk. Did she send you a twerk?
No, she didn't send me a twerk. She sent me a tweet, something. She poked me and said, let your audience know that we're going to extend the $25 rebate on the TP9 SA until October 15th. So originally it was going to end at the end of September, and they've decided to be generous, so they're extending it into October. So there you go, freaks. You're all out of excuses. You just ran out of excuses. All right, you got. Let's go ahead and move on to the meat of this one, since we're already 22 minutes in. Are you ready for it?
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Louis Armstrong, the great Satchmo. And you're just like, wow, why did you decide to play Louis Armstrong? Well, I'll tell you why. New Orleans Airport is Armstrong International, named after Louis B. Armstrong. There is a Louis B. Armstrong Park in New Orleans, and he's probably one of the... There's a lot of people who've come out of New Orleans, and probably one of the most famous, or one of the people that is most linked to New Orleans is the great Satchmo, Louis B. Armstrong. And if you are a grad program member, you know that Ms. Nancy and I, last week, we visited New Orleans, took some time to ourselves, broke from work. You know what your mother had the nerve to accuse me of doing, Jared?
What?
We were in the hotel room, and she was in the bathroom fiddling with her hair, or whatever women do in the bathroom, for 30 minutes. And I was just sitting there in the chair looking out the window. We stayed on the 7th floor of the Royal St. Charles Hotel there, looking at my phone. And I sent Zachary a message asking him if he could post some stuff on social media. And she walks out and she goes, "Ha, I caught you." I said, "You caught me?" She goes, "I caught you working. You're not supposed to be working." I'm like, "You are going to what? You're going to bust me for messaging on my phone?" Yes. I was like, wow, pot.
So she wasn't on her phone the whole time,
pot,
right?
welcome, meet kettle. There you go, exactly. But we had a good time, despite the fact that Hotwire lies. Do not use, here's your warning. I know that the grad program people already know this, but I'm going to hip every one of you in the Student of the Gun audience. I would recommend that you stay clear of hotwire.com. Hashtag Hotwire lies. Miss Nancy decided she was going to book us a room. She said, "Where do you want to stay?" I said, "Let's stay in the French Quarter so that we'll have less walking." We can just walk out, eat dinner, have drinks, do whatever we want to do, and then just walk back. Because New Orleans is not a city you want to be driving around. You drive to it. You park your car very expensively. That's where you need lube to park your car in New Orleans for sure. Park your car and then walk. That's what you want to do. You don't want to be driving around because parking it sucks. It's hard to find to just do it. So she said, okay. So she gets on there, and they have that super secret thing where they won't tell you what the hotel is, but it's a great deal, and they tell you supposedly where it is. And so they tell her on the site, a 4-star hotel in the, quote, French Quarter, Bourbon Street area. Okay, so she gets on there and books it. And it is the Royal St. Charles. Well, I can read a map. Miss Nancy can read a map. We know New Orleans. And the Royal St. Charles Hotel is in the business district on the western side of Canal. It is not in the French Quarter. Now, it's not that far. I mean, it's a walk, quarter mile, half mile, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, it's not in the French Quarter. And so she's like, this is bull crap. This is crap. So she called the customer service number. Well, she called a phone number that is not customer service. Long story short, there were people in India arguing with my wife over New Orleans geography, trying to convince her that that hotel is indeed in the, quote, French Quarter area. And I guess by that definition, then anything within the city of New Orleans, greater New Orleans district, is the French Quarter area. And they told her she was wrong, that they were not going to refund her money or cancel her reservation, and that it was too bad and to suck it. So here's the deal, Hotwire, apparently Hotwire has to lie to get customers. They have to trick you. And the sad thing about that is, we knew, but somebody coming from anywhere else in the world, anywhere else in the United States, who's just looking for, they're excited. They're, let's go down to the Big Easy. Let's go to New Orleans and historic Bourbon Street and blah, blah, blah. Those folks, they're not going to know any better. They're not going to know, and they're going to be tricked and trapped into doing it. And it's crap. And rather than say, you know what, we made the mistake, let us fix it for you, they decided instead to put her on hold, to hang up on her, to argue with her. So hashtag Hotwire lies. And you can do what you want. You're an American or an Australian or a New Zealander, wherever you happen to be in the world. But I would recommend that you avoid them like the plague, unless you enjoy having your service providers lie to you, take your money and lie to you. That's like, can you imagine like booking a trip to New York and you think you're getting a hotel in Manhattan, and then they put you in Queens or Brooklyn or something. They're like, well, it's technically in New York. Yeah, it technically is. Well, there you go. You got to be very careful. You do something like that in Detroit, you end up dead. New Orleans, too. Someone asked me, they said, well, were you up by I-10? I was like, no. I didn't take a fire team or a platoon with me. We were not up by I-10. Well, while we were there, we were in New Orleans, and we got a chance to walk around some. And we walked, if you know the geography of New Orleans, you have Bourbon Street, which is obviously rather decadent and 100% R-rated, if not X-rated. And then just to the south is Royal Street. And Royal Street, they actually have very famous art galleries. They have the Blue Dog Art Gallery. They have several different jewelry stores and galleries and what have you. People come from all over the world to buy quirky New Orleans type stuff there. And they actually have a few restaurants on Royal Street. And we walked down to this little hole-in-the-wall restaurant called Mona Lisa's. And it is within the land of Oz, which is all I'm going to say about that. But we went to Mona Lisa's because about 5 years ago, we had accidentally discovered it. It's an Italian place, as you can imagine. You know, lasagna and the spaghetti and all that kind of stuff. And they'll make you pizza if you really feel like it. Well, we said, well, where do we want to eat? And she said, oh, let's go to Mona Lisa's. We haven't been there for years. And, you know, if you've ever gone anywhere with your spouse, your significant other, and you enjoyed yourself, you want to relive that memory. So we decided we would do that. We're walking down Royal, and I look up and you know, in the French Quarter, pretty much every building is a 2 or 3 story building, and they have these old colonial style wrought iron balconies everywhere. That's like what New Orleans is famous for. And on the second, you know, on the balcony of a building, a house, kind of a, you know, well, it's not really a house. What they have is they have the shops downstairs, and then the people who run the shops live upstairs. You dig it. There's a sign that says what? And it says, warning, walk in large groups. We love NOPD. We just need more. This was a professionally made sign. This wasn't something that was, and that is the, obviously, if you looked at the show notes or if your device allows you to look at the designated picture for the show, that is the designated picture for this show. I took a picture with my phone, obviously. And when you have citizens that go out of their way to print professionally made signs to warn tourists to walk in large groups, you got a crime problem. When the people get to the point where they feel the need to warn others about the crime problem, yeah, it's time to start paying attention.
Well, at least they're nice enough to warn the tourists about the crime, as if they didn't already know about it.
Well, sadly, I think a lot of them don't. Many Europeans and Asians, Japanese people love to go to New Orleans. Go down by the river. Jared, you remember going to the mall out by the river? And there's Japanese tourists everywhere. And we live 90 minutes away, and so I don't. I guess maybe I'm spoiled or what have you. I don't ever think about people like actually getting on a plane and flying for 10 hours and doing 3 layovers so they can just get to New Orleans.
Yeah.
But apparently there are people that do that. And, well, New Orleans has the New Orleans Bureau of Tourism, they came up with a new theme to try and attract visitors, and it's, Visit New Orleans, you probably won't die. And that is the title for today's episode. You probably won't die. I mean, yeah, there's always a chance that you will die, but you probably won't. We just like, well, what brought this on, Paul? What is going on? Let's see. Here we go. We have a story from NOLA.com. www.nola.com/crime/index. And it's I believe it is from the Times-Picayune, or it's quoted from the Times-Picayune, the official paper of record of New Orleans. And let me see. What's the date line on this sucker here? I'm trying to look for the date line.
It's 5/2015. May 2015.
It was updated on July 9th, 2015. There you go. The story was, it was updated a second time on July 16th, 2015. But the title is 100. New Orleans hits triple digits in murders 55 days sooner than it did last year. That's a lot of killing. New Orleans year-to-date murder tally, and this is back in July. I can't even imagine what it is now. Back in July, they broke the murder record. New Orleans year-to-date murder tally hit 100 on Thursday, July 9th, 55 days sooner than last year, and 101 days late, and 101, they had their 101st murder Thursday night. The grim triple-digit milestone has not been reached until the first week of September in each of the previous 2 years. The City Hall chest thumping that followed 3 consecutive years of declining murder totals has been muted this year as officials and observers privately conceded a 4th annual decline doesn't appear to be in the cards for 2015. No, not if they're breaking the records there. And all of you, we did the handing out the pamphlets thing in the bonus hour because I just couldn't do that story without saying bad words. I just couldn't make myself do that. Did you see Ryan Heffner asked if they were handing out pamphlets?
Yeah.
When I took that picture up. But, the fatal shooting late Thursday night in the lower Ninth Ward appears to be New Orleans' 101st murder in 190 days, leaving the city on pace to finish this year with at least 194 victims. That would be the second highest total in the past 8 years. New Orleans' record 199 came in 2011 before a 3-year decline that brought 193, 156, and 150. Wow. The lowest murder rate in 150 murders was the lowest rate since 1971. Well, congratulations. Well, what, might you ask, the freak is going on there in New Orleans? Well, what we have is, number one, they've have they not cut back on manpower? Well, they can't hire cops to work in New Orleans, quite frankly. They advertise in Harrison County, Mississippi, which is 90 minutes away. They have billboards advertising for people to become New Orleans police officers. That's a long drive. That's not a commute. They're thinking that they can't get enough people over there to pass the academy and qualify to be police officers and desire to be police officers, that they have to reach out and recruit. That in and of itself is very sad. We have New Orleans police officers that are being murdered by the thug element. We talked about that here recently on the show. And then we have, let's see, Mardi Gras. We have a story from Mardi Gras where, Mardi Gras parade shooting. 3 young men met in a lethal set of circumstances. They can't even stop killing each other during Mardi Gras. As a matter of fact, I took my wife to Mardi Gras, not for the main parade, but for one of the numerous other parades. And we got home that night, checked the news the next day, and found out that there was 2 separate shootings in 2 separate places in New Orleans, only about 2 or 3 blocks away from where we were watching the parade. How wonderful is that? Now you're asking me, you're like, Paul, so what? I don't care. I don't live in New Orleans. You should care. And the reason that you should care is because New Orleans is essentially, this is what you get when you try to throw money at problems. When you have a pro-statist, pro-liberal agenda that believes that more government programs, when you have in New Orleans, or I guess we should revisit this, but they had the New Orleans PD, they had the ATF. Who else was involved? The local parish sheriff's office was out there walking around door to door, handing out pamphlets to remind people that. Jared, did you find that?
Which?
Which bonus episode was that? Was that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? Do me a favor, and while I'm talking, find that one where they were selling stupidity door to door.
Oh, okay.
You had New Orleans PD, instead of actually out like patrolling and arresting criminals and so forth, instead of doing that, they're walking around with pamphlets going door to door to remind people that it's illegal to carry a gun in a school zone. Just so you know, we want you to know that. You're saying to me, what? Hang on, Paul. You do what now? They had police officers walking around neighborhoods, going door to door, handing out flyers to remind the residents that it was illegal to have a gun in a school zone. Yep, that's the crime prevention there. I know, you're thinking to yourself, are these people retarded?
It was the Friday bonus hour of 233 Part 2. SRTG 233 Part 2.
Episode 233 Part 2. Okay,
Yep.
So that would have been, we just did 245 Part 2, so was
2
it
weeks
3
ago.
3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to say to you. More money is not the issue. More money is not the answer. More government is not the answer. That is why New Orleans is in the position that it is in. It is in that position because of the mentality that more government money can fix things. Well, we're just not spending enough money. We're not buying enough pamphlets. We're not printing up enough signs. They actually have a group of people. I saw two of these people. That's the NOLA Patrol. And you're saying to yourself, what the freak? All right, people down south here, for all you Yankees and Westerners and what have you, and people who live overseas who happen to be listening to us, New Orleans, N.O., Louisiana, L.A., is locally, it's shortened to N-O-L-A, meaning New Orleans, Louisiana, or NOLA. So if you're down here on the Gulf Coast and you see N-O-L-A, NOLA, then you know it's New Orleans, right? It's in reference to New Orleans. Civilian NOLA Patrol for French Quarter. Here we go. Here's a story from May 13th, 2015. And again, the source is the Times-Picayune. 20 members of the new NOLA Patrol will hit the French Quarter streets on Monday. And you're like, woohoo! What's that all about? I want to know. Now check out the verbiage in this first sentence by Heather Nolan, not NOLA, but Heather Nolan, from the Times-Picayune. Members of the city's new civilian police force, the NOLA Patrol, will begin working in the French Quarter on Monday. Did that say the city's new civilian police force? The NOLA Patrol? Hey, Heather, I hate to break your heart, but all police officers in the United States of America, unless they currently happen to be active duty in the military, in some branch of the military, they're all civilians. You're either, in the traditional use of the word, you're either a member of the military or you are a civilian. People who are members of municipal police departments are all civilians. Now, perhaps she meant to say citizen, as in American citizen, a citizen's police force, but how can you have a citizen's police force? I know you're thinking, this is very interesting, Paul, and this is new to me. The group, which went through 200 hours of training over 5 weeks, will handle quality of life violations. I'm not even kidding, Jared. That's the NOLA Patrol is out there to handle, quote, quality of life violations and other non-emergency tasks, thus freeing up the understaffed New Orleans Police Department to focus on more serious crimes. So check this out. Mayor Mitch Landrieu, and I don't trust anybody whose last name is Landrieu, at least not now, proposed the NOLA Patrol program in August, and the city council approved it in November. Critics argued the money that the city was putting into the program could be used to hire more police officers. Duh. We wouldn't want to do that. Duh. And not civilians to help combat crime. Again, not citizens, sweetie pumpkin. I know you got to be nice with these new age journalists because they don't really get it. They don't understand that, if you're a police officer, you're not a member of the military. But okay, let's go on. Members of the NOLA Patrol will be paid about $25,000 a year through a voluntary hotel tax approved by the legislature in 2013. Who pays taxes? Do hotels pay the taxes? Where do the hotels get the money to pay the taxes? Jared, where do they get it from?
I'm going to go ahead and say that the consumer pays it.
That's right, the consumer. You pay all taxes. When someone says corporate tax rate, we need to increase the corporate tax rate. Hey, moron, there's only one group of people in the world that pay the taxes, and that is the taxpayers. That is people with jobs that go out and spend money. Corporations get the money to pay their taxes from the profits from the stuff they sell you. And if the tax rates get too high, they increase the price of the stuff that they sell you in order to pay the tax. Do you understand that? That's like people saying, well, renters don't pay property tax. Where do you think that the property owner gets the money to pay the tax from? He goes out into a field with a shovel and he digs it up? He gets it from you. Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, no kidding. So they're basically, in order to fund the NOLA patrol, if you go to New Orleans, and I should have told them that they were welcome when I was there, every room you stay in has an extra tax added to it to pay for the NOLA patrol. Now let's dig into more of the NOLA patrol here. The NOLA patrol will wear uniforms, but their uniforms will look different than those of sworn NOPD officers. Well, thank goodness. They will not be armed.
What?
The 20 civilian officers, okay, who graduated Thursday, this is back in May, will join a handful publicly and privately funded law enforcement groups already assigned to combat crime in the city's popular tourist destination. Now, off-duty NOPD officers with Sidney Torres IV's French Quarter Task Force have been patrolling the French Quarter on Polaris vehicles. We saw those guys. Now, Jared, this is something that I wanted to mention to you. When you've been to Bourbon Street more than once, who are the cops that you see on Bourbon Street? On the horses, in the little sky trolley things there? Who do you see?
Usually NOPD.
NOPD, right?
Yeah.
Every once in a while you see somebody from, I think it's Jefferson Parish. Is that Jefferson Parish? I can't remember.
I'm not sure what parish it is. And for those of you that don't know, a parish in New Orleans is like a county.
Yeah. In Louisiana, they don't have counties, they have parishes. Thank you, France. But we encountered, your mother and I, several LSP, Louisiana State Highway Patrol officers, in uniform, in very spectacular, magnificently well-pressed and good-looking uniforms, on the street there. And I walked up to them, there's a group of 4 of them, and I said, so are you being punished or are you making good overtime? And he laughed. He goes, no, we're making overtime. I said, all right, part 2. Why are you here? He said, it's part of the governor's initiative to support New Orleans PD. So in New Orleans, they can't even patrol their own streets. They don't even have the ability to patrol their own streets. And why do you suppose that is? Now, I tell you what, the criminals, the LSP guys, to a man, and I didn't see any female ones, but to a man, they look like serious dudes. They look like pipe hitters. Unfortunately, a lot of your large municipal police departments are filled with affirmative action hires. Yeah, they are. They're filled with affirmative action hires, and they look like bags of crap. Go to New York City, and if you're an NYPD officer and you're a serious dude or a chick, rock on. But look me in the eye and tell me that there aren't people in your ranks that walk around looking like a bag of crap. And you're like, yeah, okay, Paul. Some of them really do look like a bag of crap. Yeah. And every major metropolitan area has police officers that are only there to fill the city's EEOC hiring standards. And they look like bags of crap. Not all of them, by any stretch of the imagination, but enough. And it's the same thing with sheriff's departments. We got people they have what they call chair torturers. We used to have, where I worked, some people on the local sheriff's department that should have been jailed for chair torture. You know what I'm talking about. Had that special industrial strength chair for the dispatcher. Yeah, there are some people on municipal police departments that look like they arrive at work via forklift every day, and they have to be taken away via forklift every evening. But not the LSP guys. They were sharp. They were sharp. They had the Smokey Bear hats on. But, folks, this is the story. Why do you suppose that the crime problem is what it is? I'm going to tell you my opinion. New Orleans, being a major metropolitan area, also being a big pro-Democrat area, statists, they've been taught for generations. When I say they, I'm pretty much the entire community has been taught to look to the government for their salvation and solutions. Everything down there, whether it's crime prevention or catching criminals or stopping criminals or what have you. Before I get into that, let me tell you what Nancy and I we encountered two of these NOLA patrol individuals on Bourbon Street, and I noticed them because they were wearing bright yellow polo shirts and what looked to be, I think, like black uniform pants. I'm not sure what the color of the pants were, but they had bright yellow shirts. They had duty belts on, and they had radios. And it was two girls, two females, and they were New Orleans residents. And they appeared to be in their early 20s. And when they passed us, we noticed them, not only because of their bright yellow shirts that said NOLA Patrol on them, but because they were giggling and chuckling and having just a wonderful time. And you're like, well, you don't want them to have a wonderful time? Folks, these two chicks, these two early 20s girls that were giggling and carrying on the street were no more security or law enforcement than my dog. My dog, my black lab, is more security and law enforcement than these two chicks were. Bless their hearts for being out there, for getting paid. That was $50,000 worth of tax money, walking down the street with radios, giggling and having a good time. It's a joke. It's pointless. Any big city police chief that's worth his salt and detective force that are worth their salt, they know how to crack down on the criminals. They know how to do it. They can't do it. You know why they can't do it? They can't do it because the politicians won't let them. Because the criminals also happen to comprise their main voting bloc. And the families of the criminals and the neighbors of the criminals are their voting bloc. That is their power base. We don't want to offend the criminals. We don't want to make it seem like we're mean to criminals. So what are we going to do? We're going to do all these ridiculous, nonsensical government-sponsored programs that essentially do nothing to stop the epidemic of violent crime. What you've got in New Orleans is the tourist area and the downtown area is surrounded by a haven, by a hive of just hardcore ghetto drug. It's like, imagine Mos Eisley. You will never find a more wretched hive of villainy. And that's what you've got in the 9th Ward and the surrounding areas of New Orleans. A wretched hive of villainy. And the people that are killing tourists, killing cops, killing each other, they hang out there, and then they venture forth out into where the citizens are, stab, rob, murder, kill them. Then they go back and they have their support group. That's the way it is. And all these nonsense, all these government programs, this NOLA patrol, which is a joke, all that's not going to change. None of it's going to change anything. It's like, I'm serious, it's like the definition of an insane person. If we just spend more money, let's spend some more money. You're like, Paul, you just said they need to spend more money on cops. Yeah, they do. On effective policing. On cops that are going to go out and actually punish. Well, they're not there to punish them. They just find and capture. And what about the court system in New Orleans? What about the court system in Jefferson Parish? What are they doing to keep these recidivist criminals off the streets? To keep them from killing the police officers? killing the tourists, killing everybody. What are they doing? Well, jail's not the answer, Paul. Just locking people in jail, that doesn't solve anything. I don't know what does. And then you have we can't exempt the commander-in-chief. You don't think that the criminal vermin that populate New Orleans don't have TVs. Hell, they got 52-inch flat screens. They have bigger TVs than you. They have more TVs than you. You don't think that they worship Comrade Barry down there. And Comrade Barry has come out and said pretty much, hey, fight the police. You encounter police, fight them. And if they kill you, we'll turn you into a martyr. Doesn't matter if you're a career criminal, if you're a piece of human filth. Doesn't matter. If you can qualify as Comrade Barry's unborn son, you get a pass. Fight the police, we'll turn you into a martyr. We'll send Al Sharpton down to riot. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen in your major metropolitan areas when the commander-in-chief has essentially given the green light to police assassinations nationwide? He's told them, it's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. Hell, he went down there for the anniversary of Katrina and pandered to them. Got up in front and gave a speech pandering to the criminal masses and the vermin. It's not your fault. The government needs to care more. The reason your life isn't what you want it to be is because the government just doesn't care enough. But don't worry, eventually I'll take all those people's money and make it right for you. Not one of these people down there, not one of these vermin, these monsters that are killing each other, and then if you happen to be a Japanese tourist and you get in the way, you know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is what happened in Florida. When the German tourists got jacked by the vermin in Florida and murdered, and then it's like worldwide, they decided people weren't going to come to Florida anymore, and so they got real super serious and they started putting armed security at the rest areas and stuff like that. What's going to happen is there's going to be an international incident where one of these street vermin murders a foreign tourist, and it'll get out. The news, they won't be able to put a lid on it and cap it. It'll get out worldwide. Don't go to New Orleans. And don't think they're not crapping. They make a ton of money off of the tourist industry and the convention industry down there. They bring people in from all over the country, all over the world to come to conventions and what have you in New Orleans. And if it gets out that, yeah, you probably won't die, that's a lot of money. And maybe, just maybe, the politicians and the statists will allow the police to do their jobs, and maybe the judges will do their jobs and keep these recidivist criminals and scumbags off the streets. But until then, it's not going to change. If you decide to go to New Orleans is wonderful. It has lots of history. It has like 300-400 years of history down there. American history, pre-American history, French history, Spanish history, history in the United States, the Chalmette battlefield, the War of 1812, Battle of New Orleans, the steamboats, the Mississippi River. I mean, there's a lot of good things in New Orleans. Unfortunately, it also happens to be surrounded by a hive of villainy, the likes of which you've not encountered. So I guess the advice is walk in large groups and make sure that you're armed. Make sure when you go down there, if you're going to party and revel, make sure that you have a designated shooter. All right, kid. That's it for today's show. We got all the way out, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, write to P.O. Box 405, Boulder, Colorado, for a complete refund of your money. That's the beginning of the week, and that's one way to start it off. We'll be back tomorrow with even more. So make sure that you're always listening louder. All right, kids. Beginner once, student for life.